maritime safety.
It's like a turtle ramming into the belly of a porpoise. How that can happen is really puzzling to me. I cannot understand why the Dona Paz did not take evasive action and just leave this site.
The ships were moving slow. The Dona Paz at 26 kilometers per hour, the Vector at 8 kilometers per hour. They were surrounded by wide open sea, plenty of space to avoid a crash. Could it be that no one was watching?
The officer on watch on the tanker might have fallen asleep. In the same manner, the officer on watch on the Dona Paz also could have fallen asleep. Because why did he allow his ship to come very close to the tanker? When you have so much space on both sides to maneuver, to get out of the way of this ship that is showing a different set of lights every 5 minutes.
All the officers and crew of the Dona Paz went down with the ship, and the whole truth may never be known. Experts also wondered why the Dona Paz and Vector did not communicate with each other just before the crash.
Well, that again is a requirement. It's an international requirement that all ships must be equipped with VHF radio. In situations where ships are in sight of each other, they can use the radio to communicate and ask the other ship what his intentions are. And this should be done long before a possible collision will occur.
The Vector was discovered to have an expired radio license, and the radio license of Dona Paz turned out to be fake. Unbelievably, the official investigation ruled out what could have been the most spectacular aspect of the Dona Paz tragedy. The reported overcrowding of almost 4,000 passengers on board the Dona Paz. The Board of Marine Inquiry dismissed the eyewitness account of the survivors. They ruled that the eyewitnesses were not qualified to count the number of actual passengers aboard and were just making estimates. Investigators took the word of the Philippine Coast Guard boarding team, who insisted to the very end that they conducted a proper head count. Many were shocked that Sulpicio Lines was not held liable for the possible overloading of the Dona Paz. The ruling drew howls of protest from the relatives of unlisted and still missing passengers. Families of each victim received $400 from Sulpicio Lines as compensation. Those who were not on the ship's manifest got nothing. Vector lawyer Jose Sison points out a potential conflict of interest in the official investigation. The Board of Marine Inquiry, or BMI, was under the umbrella of the Philippine Coast Guard, the same body responsible for ensuring proper passenger loads on ferries.
I think BMI can come up with that conclusion only. The BMI is under the Philippine Coast Guard, no? So the only way they could exculpate the Philippine Coast Guard is to exonerate Sulpicio.
Why?
Because if they find all these violations of Sulpicio, these are violations committed by Sulpicio because it was allowed by Coast Guard.
But according to the Philippine Board of Marine Inquiry, even if the Dona Paz was overcrowded, this scenario had nothing to do with the collision.
We have been saying all along that the cause of the tragedy is not overcrowding or overloading of the vessel. The cause of the tragedy, let's face it, is the collision. Now, the center of focus should be who is at fault in that collision. And then we go into the minor issue, which is overcrowding.
Ultimately, investigators put the blame on the vector. But one burning question remained. Why didn't the captain and crew of the Dona Paz take evasive action? Shocking allegations later surfaced from survivors.
So they were having fun?
Masaya.
They were having
Yung
fun,
nasa
not the
taas.
passengers.
Hindi yung pasaheros. Yung,
Are you talking about the first-class passengers?
hindi, yung mga
I'm talking
taga-
about the crew of the ship.
In the greatest sea disaster to ever happen in peacetime, a passenger ferry collided with an oil tanker. There were only 24 survivors, and the world still looked to them for answers about what truly happened aboard the Dona Paz. But the survivors would have more questions, each more troubling than the last. Witness told investigators about the party being held aboard the Dona Paz just minutes before the crash.
Nakita ko sa taas, yung gabi na yun. Medyo parang...
I heard music and laughter.
May tumutugtog, parang nagsasayawan sila.
I guess there was dancing up there.
So they were having fun?
That's what I noticed.
Who was having a party?
Hindi ko talaga masabi kung sino eh. Dahil
They were having fun, not the passengers. They were having fun.
yung nasa taas, hindi yung pasaheros. Yung,
Are you talking about the first-class passengers?
hindi, yung mga
I'm
taga-
talking about the crew of the ship.
Another survivor, military soldier Lutgardo Nieto, recalls that a fellow soldier had told him about the same party at the bridge, and that disturbingly, the captain was among them.
The soldier told me that he'd been going around the ship and he was specific that he came from a party at the bridge.
Taas bridge ang tawag doon eh, pilot bridge. Sabi niya sa akin.
He said, "Do you know that the captain is there at the party?" I thought he meant a military captain, but he said, "No, I mean the captain of the ship. He's at the party." I told him not to mind so much because I'm sure a chief mate relieved the captain. But after a few minutes, we crashed. I thought to myself, what the soldier told me must have been true.
Who was manning the bridge when the accident happened? Was it a qualified officer? According to some survivors, an apprentice mate may have been steering the ship. The truth may never be known. In the years after the Dona Paz tragedy, shipping disasters continued to plague the Philippines. In 1988, nearly a year after the tragedy, the Dona Marilyn, a sister ship of the Dona Paz, sank off the central province of Leyte, killing some 300 lives. Were no lessons learned from one of the world's worst maritime disasters? It It has been 20 years since that fateful December day. But for the survivors, those terrible memories will never fade.
Nag-land travel kami. Sumakay din. Kailangan madali lang. From Matnog to Alin lang eh.
These days,
Mga 1 hour.
traveling by land or air is easy and a lot faster.
Pero kung sasakay ako ng...
So to take the ferry from Manila to Leyte, no. I don't want to ride a ship again. I'm afraid to get on because if it sinks, I may not be as fortunate. I'll just take the plane. It's faster. I don't want to ride a ship again. I won't, even if it's for free.
As I was there watching it happen, I prayed to God that He let me live because my family needs me. They depend on me, and I promised to serve them till my last breath. They are the reason why I fought to stay alive that night.